Suzuki Sport. This is just to show you how the hubs come assembled. This here is actually a set of hubs for a Polaris. It's a little smaller because the hubs are bigger. The universal hubs are 3 inches tall. They're quite a bit taller. This vehicle does not require the 3-inch tall ones, and we're using Polaris hubs because it does not have the 3-inch hub on like the older style Samurais. Hubs are custom made for us per our specs. Very, very high quality, very well machined. Inside the hub, you'll find some lug nuts. These lug nuts are basically for these studs. You will use your factory lug nuts to put on these if they're Acorn. If they're not, you'll have to buy Acorn lug nuts for your vehicle. So right now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to work on this project here. We're going to remove the tire and wheel from this vehicle. We recommend there's rust on these here, and you want to make sure there's a flat surface for your hub to fit on. Sometimes there's a lip here. You might even have to add a wheel spacer. These studs here are actually kind of short compared to, for example, a standard stud. This vehicle was designed back in '96 for steel wheels only. There's still enough thread, as long as there's enough thread to this is 12 millimeter wide. If the lug nuts will cover 12 millimeters, then the strength is good. So we're just going to clean the rust off. I'll have you do that. Since the track system is so deep, we have to use special lug nuts. These actually fit this here, so they work very well on the Polaris ones. So right now we're going to use the factory ones that were supposed to go with the top hubcap to install on this vehicle here. Okay, we've got that torqued on. Now we're going to put the cover on top of it because this one here wouldn't require this because, well, it does require it because we're going from a 5-hole bolt pattern to a 4. That's why we have to go to a 2-piece hub. You'll notice that these have anti-seize on them. You don't want to use Loctite because eventually you might want to take them off. Okay, they're torqued now. Now we're going to, we have to figure out, since we use a solid axle design, we have to figure out where we're going to put the bracket on the inside. So right now, on the rear, we're going to put the track on. So you're going to get a solid axle design right here. This is a good idea to put on your machine, have it on before you put your tracks on because it's kind of hard to get the nut on. You'll also notice most of the time the nut is right here. Whenever we do a custom job like this here, we back the nut off all the way to the back. So this is done before we put the track on. It just saves you from crawling underneath and doing it. So now we'll put the track on and we'll show you why. This is a special lug nut. They're like $9 a piece from Polaris because you cannot get a socket inside here. So that's why they're 3 inches long to get them on. This is required on most Polarises. The bracket that we give you, which is part of the custom set. You install this first. The reason you need to do this here is you need to know where to put the custom brackets that we have on the rear. So right now, this bracket's going to go up here somewhere, and that's what this bolts to. Okay, so what I recommend you do is put it together. This is just to kind of mock it up. This is important where you put this on the frame. This is a new design now. Instead of welding on your lower control arm, this is adjustable. So right now, the secret is this here has to be up here. We want to have, see how this moves in and out? We want to have, in fact, if we loosen this, at least an inch. So we could probably loosen this spring a little bit and have like an inch and a half gap right here. Now that tells me where this has to go. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a felt pen and mark it, and I've already got 2 marks. There's one right there, one right there. That's where I'm going to put this bracket. So for now, I'm going to take this bracket off. This is a 2-piece bracket. Okay, the advantage to this bracket is that if you want this arm on the inside, see this one here, if you want it on the inside, you can flip this bracket this way. If you want it on the outside, on the inside's here, outside's here. This one here worked better on the outside because we want to keep this arm kind of straight. On the inside, I'd had to move it in to where it hit the track. So you have a choice of inside or outside. So right now, we know that we want it on the outside because it is welded on one side more than the other. So I'm going to put this up here. I'm going to take this other bracket that's already pre-drilled. I'm going to put the angle iron to the inside. I'm going to put this one over it. Now, I'm going to take a pin and mark where this overlaps. I got a mark right there. What I want to do is give it a little more room because this will bend a little bit. So instead of welding it there, I'm going to give it another 1/8 of an inch. Now, I'm going to weld it not only there, but I'm going to run a bead on the inside too. So I'll weld that. And welded on the inside is not going to move. Now basically we're going to connect it to the bracket and drill through the frame and connect it. Okay, so it's connected. Now I'm going to slide it up here where it belongs. I want to make sure there's at least an inch here difference between that and that. 1.5 inches wouldn't hurt, but I can't move this any further. I could by just grinding out a little bit. But right now the secret is to hold it on the bottom, not tilt it. Hold it flat and mark your holes. You ready? Yep. Now we're going to tighten the bolts up. To remove the track system, it's basically 2 bolts, 4 lug nuts. Tracks are off. Okay, we're going to tighten everything up. You'll see we got a gap here. That means that the track can only go down that far. So when you back up and it stops, you need to stop because this is the only travel you have. Now we're going to adjust the spring here, and what we're going to do is we're going to take the spring was loose before, we're going to run the bolt up to the spring, and we're going to give it 1.5 turns. That's all we need. Then the rear is adjusted. We do this while it's flat. You can recheck it on the ground, but we're pretty good at it, so it is flat. Now if we is it adjusted?
It is.
So if we lower it now, you'll see how the gap goes away. That only gives you that much articulation. It keeps it from hitting your frame up here. Okay, now raise the back. It compresses the spring. You got that much travel for the spring. So you don't have a lot of travel to go up and down. So the last thing you want to do is try to go over a 2-foot log. You're going to run into problems. But if you set it down right now, if you were to check to see if you're level, lift it back up. And you got a little bit of tension on the spring, it should be pretty level here. Okay, rear's done. We're going to go back over. This does have a 3-inch lift. As you'll see right here, there's all it is a kit that you stick on top of your spring. Not one of the better lists, but it works. If all else fails, you can have too much. If it sags too much, gets tight, you can actually put spring stiffeners in the middle here. Like I said, this is basically a light duty, get you through your cabin, cheaper than a $35,000 UTV. We're going to have to cut a little bit here, and we're going to cut a little bit here, just to protect it from rubbing, in case you carry too much weight. This is all modifications that the owner has to do, and each vehicle is unique. Plate. This is kind of like a unique control arm because it's got a little bump right here. I'm trying to get this plate that we put on the GL trackers to work. So basically, I want it to fit on the flat part right here. I've done this here, and I've drilled a hole. So that'll bolt good, but I like 3 bolts. So this hole isn't going to work because it's going against frame there. I could tilt it, but it's just as easy for me to drill another hole here. This way I'll have 3 bolts holding. You'll also see here that the goal is there's a ball joint nut right here. The goal is inch front, back, in or out to connect your torsion arm to. This here tab here works on some of them. On this one here it won't. So I'm going to grind this off and I'm going to drill a hole right here after I put the track up to see where it goes. This way this bracket will be totally custom. If you're not mechanically inclined, you might have to go to an ATV or a 4-wheel drive shop. The only other option is what I recommend if you want custom plates for the front. You can go to a junkyard, you can buy a lower control arm like this here, send them to us for $250 to $350. We will custom make a set for you, and then they will fit perfect. Basically, to put this on, it was easier for me to take the 1 bolt off. So now I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to put the connection for this torsion arm. Now what I did, I know that there's a bubble right here, and I know that the suspension is hanging down. It's something that we can adjust later on, but I'm going to show you how to do it correctly. There is a bubble here on the side, and you get it close to the middle. The top of the rear bogey wheel should be around 12 inches. So that's close. As you can see right here, this here fits really good on the inside. It did not want to work very well on the outside. It wouldn't go very far. So I know that I have to connect this tie rod in on the inside. So what I'm going to do is I want to make sure I have adjustment both ways. So I'm going to basically, as I can see here, I can run the tie rod in all the way. I'm going to run the hole maybe 1.5 inches from the end. That gives me 1.5 inches, one adjustment to bring it in, and 2 inches to bring it down. So now what I've done here is I know that the line is right here. I'm going to mark a hole right here, and then this tab, I don't need this tab here, so I'm going to cut this off like that. This is where my torsion arm bolt is going to go, this system right here. So now I just kind of finger tighten this bracket. Like I say, this is all custom. If you send us the lower control arms, we can make them for you. I'll take it off, I'll cut this off, I'll drill this, and I'll put it back together, and then we'll just adjust it. You'll also notice on most of these vehicles here, I double the bushings on the front to make the front not go so high, because we do have clearance sometimes on bumpers. So I think I'll cut a little bit more off on the inside. It's just waste. The front, definitely no problem at all. At the front of the rear track here. Let's go to the front here, and we're going to go on the front here. This is all plastic, so it's got to turn. So I'm going to come in on the inside here, and I'll probably cut it on a 45-degree angle just to give it more clearance. Some customers that don't want them cut just take the front bumper off when they're running tracks, the front cover. This customer didn't care, he just wants to go to the woods. Not approved by Camoplast for the people that are gentle on vehicles. This is a 4-man's UTV. Right?